ready to go and set up, we can begin. So we'll call the Nome Common Council regular meeting and Board of Equalization meeting for Monday, May 26, 2026 to order at 7 p.m. Clerk, may call the roll.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Martinson.
Excuse.
Councilmember Miller.
Excuse.
Councilmember Henderson. Here. Councilmember Green. Here. Councilmember Lusk.
Here.
Looks like we have a quorum. Chair will entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Councilmember Johnson, seconded by Councilmember Henderson.
Henderson.
Wasn't sure I heard you. I know what your name is. I just wasn't sure I heard you.
Name tags for you.
Yeah. There you go. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
You can make it
don't forget
bigger
who
if you like.
as well. Right. Yeah. Okay.
Do we want to change from Monday to Tuesday?
Yeah. Good idea.
Good idea.
Considering today is Tuesday,
No.
might make a note on the record that today is Tuesday. We consider that an administrative change and proceed with the motion to approve the agenda. I call the roll on the agenda approval. There's no further discussion. Go ahead.
Councilmember Lusk.
Yes.
Councilmember Green.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item will be approval of the minutes.
Approve the minutes
Yes.
of no minutes. I was gonna say, I don't remember what.
Right, okay. We'll move on to communications. May 19th, 2026 letter to Joy Baker from the Denali Commission, Ray, and approval of the application for the Port of Nome Snake River Merge Facility Project.
Do you have any questions? I know you've had any questions of Joy about that. Anytime it's go.
Let the record reflect Councilmember Miller arriving at 7:03 p.m.
No questions, but comment that that's a great project for our local community to have this facility over there.
All right, I guess no further action, and we'll move on to citizens' comments. If there's any citizens that wish to comment, that'd be the perfect time to do it. Seeing the excitement in the room for comments, we'll move on to unfinished business unless there's people on Zoom that might wish to comment. No, okay.
No.
All right. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing for the use of 2025 NSEDC CBS funds. Chair will entertain a motion to recess into a public hearing for the use of 2025 NSEDC CBS funds.
Make that motion.
Okay. Motion by Councilmember Johnson, seconded by Councilmember Henderson to recess into public hearing for the use of the 2025 NSEDC CBS funds. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Lusk.
Yes.
Councilmember Green.
Yes.
Motion carries. So we are now in a public hearing for the use of 2025 NSEDC CBS funds. Is there anybody that wishes to speak to the issue?
Anybody online?
Anybody online? There does not appear to be anyone wishing to comment on the use of the 2025 NSEDC CBS funds. So we will recess out of the public hearing and proceed on with new business. For new business, we have item A, for R 260501, a resolution authorizing the City of Nome to apply for and participate in the U.S. DOT PIDP discretionary grant program for funding construction of 2 local service facility components associated with the Port of Nome modification project for the Arctic Deep Draft Port. Details on page 4 of the packet. Chair will entertain a motion to approve said resolution.
Got it, Corey.
Sorry, I was trying to read. What page of the packet?
Page 4.
Page 4.
Oh, sorry.
Here you go. If you don't, you have that. There you go.
Anyone want to make a motion to?
I'll make that motion.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Henderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Johnson. Is there any discussion on this resolution?
Can someone summarize this, what we're applying for? In
I'll-
terms of specific,
Joy, is
Bet
here.
Joy could.
Absolutely, yes. This is a funding application to the Maritime Administration under US DOT for the Port Infrastructure Development Program, which has a program within the program for small projects at small ports. And based on our tonnage volumes, we clearly reside in the small projects because they're looking at ports across the country. So small projects at a small port, and the max that they will award is 11.25 million. So the balance of the cost share works out to about 76.26. 11.25 would be that much of the cost of the project, and our remaining balance would be 3.5 million. And those funds would be pulled from the existing balance of the state funds that we have from the original 22 award by the legislature of 175 million for the port expansion. The components under this grant application are 2 local service facilities by which we are 100% responsible. So we are unable to use this for our 10% 90-10 match because you can't match federal to federal funds. But we can use it for our 100% local components. So we're using it for the 100% of the dredging for the LSF, which is the berthing areas right up adjacent to the dock base, and the structure of the road out on the 1 Bravo expansion.
thank you.
Sure.
All right. Is there any discussion?
Does this mean we have to look for funding elsewhere if we don't qualify, or is this a part of the current process?
Joy couldn't hear you. Could you ask that again?
Is this a part of the current process for like the continuing projects, or what if they don't accept this application?
If they don't award, then this is just one of many pathways by which we are funding the local cost share. This is just something that came along early in the 1B process, and we're jumping on it to take advantage of it and are hopeful for an award, but it's not the only pathway we're pursuing.
Any further questions?
Oh, just how many other options do we have if this doesn't pass?
There's federal process moving forward. The Corps doesn't have their cost share yet for 1 Bravo, so they are in pursuit of theirs through their Civil Works work plan funding under the next budget process. And we also have the funding priorities, legislative priorities, where we prioritize our share of that through the state and the Fed. So that is in pursuit, as well as looking into some legislative congressional language changes that may possibly adjust our portion. There's so many moving parts, it's hard to really nail it down. I'd say right now 4 pathways. And we're hitting them all as hard as we can.
So if I'm tracking this right, the port potentially spends 3.5 million, they get 11 million, and that's all counting towards our local contribution that we have to make anyhow. So it's a good bang for the buck.
Correct. And
If we can, okay,
and the
got it.
3.5 is funded from our state
previous
grant.
money that we, okay, yeah.
Any further questions or discussion?
Does this have to be voted in unanimous to continue, or is it just quorum?
It just needs 4 votes to pass. If there's no further questions or discussion, clerk may call the roll on the motion to approve.
Councilmember Green,
Yes.
Councilmember Lust,
Yes.
Councilmember Miller,
No.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is for the Board of Equalization. The chair will entertain a motion to recess into the Board of Equalization.
Make that motion.
Motion by Councilmember Henderson, seconded by
One second.
Card got it.
Councilmember Green. Any discussion? I call roll on the motion to recess.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Councilmember Green,
Yes.
Councilmember Lust.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. So we recessed into the Board of Equalization. We have a number of items, 9 actually, from Norton Sound Health Corporation that have been appealed to hear about tonight. We'll first hear from the appellant. 10, 15 minutes should be adequate. We could consider going longer. For the appellant, is there someone to speak?
Yes, sir. I missed that last part. I believe you said something about number of minutes.
Yeah, we're looking for 10, 15 minutes. Is that going to be enough time for you to convey your case?
Well, I will say that in the past years, we've gone significantly above that. I can certainly try to keep things abbreviated. Something that we've done, and if Charles is willing to or amenable to doing this again, is we sort of speak about the properties by category. So go by ones used for staff housing, then patient housing, et cetera. And that helps with time. But, I will say the last few hearings have taken a couple hours, I think, if I had to estimate. But with that being said, I'm happy to jump in.
All right, sure. We'd still like to keep it within 15 minutes. If that's available.
Okay, I'll do my best. So good evening, Board Chair Hughes, members of the Board of Equalization, Charles. My name is Rick Fry from Hobbs, Strauss, Dean and Walker, joined by my colleague Caleb Norris, and we on the Zoom here, we represent Norton Sound Health Corporation. This evening, present at the hearing is Dan Pardee, Chief Financial Officer at Norton Sound, and he has a few copies of a letter that he'll be distributing to you regarding a request in the assessor's brief on appeal, which was included in the board packet for today. And I'll just go over that request. So The assessor requested that the board quote correct and quote the assessed value of the taxable improvements on parcel number 190.1.059 tract A, which is the Norton Sound Regional Hospital main campus. Norton Sound objects to this improper request. As set forth in the assessor's 2026 assessment notice for that parcel, the assessed value of taxable improvements on the parcel is $10,491,240. Norton Sound has appealed to the BOE or to the board only the assessor's denial of exemption as related to its exemption application for this parcel. That's made clear in Norton Sound's appeal documents, which it submitted May 1st, 2026. Norton Sound has not taken an appeal as to the valuation of the parcel, and there's no justification for the board to change the assessor's assessed value of the taxable improvements on the parcel. Indeed, the assessor cites no legal authority for the request in the in his brief on appeal. In addition, that Norton Sound did not appeal the assessor's valuation of this parcel is further made clear by the written representations of City Clerk Dan Grimmer in his April 21, 2026 letter to Mr. Pardee, in which Mr. Grimmer stated that the deadline to appeal all issues of valuation is April 24, 2026, and the deadline for appealing the exemption determination of the assessor is separate and is 30 days from the date that the 2026 assessor's decision was emailed to Norton Sound, which was April 1st, 2026, making the deadline for exemption appeals May 1st, 2026. As above, or as I mentioned, Norton Sound submitted its appeal of the assessor's exemption determination for this parcel on May 1st. Any appeal as to valuation would have been due April 24, according to Mr. Grimmer's letter. The assessor does not allege that the March 24, 2026 assessment notice for this parcel has been in any way superseded. Instead, the assessor asserts that the 2026 assessor's identification of the assessed value of the new construction on the parcel was incorrect, and that, quote, the BOE should correct this error. In addition to the reasons I've discussed, this request is improper and violative of the property tax processes set forth in the Alaska statutes and fails to accord with fundamental tenets of notice and due process. Alaska Statute 2945-180B requires that if errors are found in the preparation of the assessment roll and are adjusted, the assessor shall mail the corrected notice, allowing 30 days for appeal to the Board of Equalization. Here, Norton Sound received an email with a hyperlink to the board packet containing the brief only 2 court days before today, and also notably 2 days before a federal and state holiday weekend. This request of the assessor clearly deprives Norton Sound of its statutory 30-day appeal period under Alaska Statute 29.45.180, subsection B. This is also the first time the assessor has ever submitted a brief on appeal to the BOE. Rather than affirmatively identify the submission of the brief or the substance of the assessor's request to the board therein related to this parcel, the brief was instead included in the middle of a nearly 1,140-page PDF packet. So that's the substance of that letter, and we wanted to submit that for the record. And I hesitate, but I really think we'll have trouble with 15 minutes. As I said, I'll try to be as abbreviated as I can, but there's just a lot of content in our applications and the assessor's decision. Tonight, we're discussing Norton Sound's appeals of the assessor's exemption determination as to 9 of its properties or portions thereof located in Nome, in which Norton Sound uses exclusively for its hospital and or charitable purposes in delivering healthcare to the Bering Strait region under an agreement with the United States Indian Health Service under the authority of Title V of the Indian Self-Determination and Education Assistance Act, which I'll call ISDA. As the board is aware, and as the Alaska Superior Court has found, Norton Sound Health Corporation, or NSHC, is a nonprofit hospital. Indeed, it's the only hospital serving the Bering Strait region, an area of over 44,000 square miles of the state. Norton Sound asserts that the assessor has erred by denying full property tax exemption to the 9 properties, with one exemption that I'll discuss in a moment. With one exception that I'll discuss in a moment. Norton Sound relies on 3 bases for exemption: charitable purposes under Alaska Statute 2945-30, subsection A3, hospital purposes under that same statutory section, and on the basis that federal law preempts municipal property tax against the properties. And the exception as to Norton Sound's arguments for full exemption is that while Norton Sound submits that the entirety of the 20-plex property should be exempt, Norton Sound does not for this year appeal the assessor's determination as to the taxability of that parcel related to 31.1% of the land value, so the taxable land value, and which land is used for a deed restricted conservation easement and undeveloped area for water mitigation and drainage, which compose 1.8 and 3.7 acres respectively. From the outset, I would like to discuss the context of Norton Sound's exemption applications and now these administrative appeals. As the parties are aware, since 2022, Norton Sound and the city have engaged in administrative and judicial appeals for property taxes assessed against Norton Sound for its properties in Nome. In 2022, the Alaska Superior Court held overwhelmingly in favor of Norton Sound to find that all of its non-vacant properties were entitled to full tax exemption under all three bases for exemption asserted by Norton Sound. In 2023, the Alaska Superior Court again held overwhelmingly in favor of Norton Sound, further finding that property that was previously used for an exempt use and that was in a temporary state of vacancy due to construction and that will be used for an exempt use after that construction was exempt under both the hospital and charitable purposes exemption of Alaska Statute 29.45.030A3. In the 2023 case, the court also held that the entirety of the hospital, including its cafeteria, was exempt under federal law, but also held open the possibility of the cafeteria being exempt under an exception to the exclusive use test for the two state statutory exemptions. Rather than adhere to these decisions, which overturned contrary decisions from the Nome Board of Equalization, however, the city has continued to assess taxes for properties that are the subject of these two decisions, as well as properties used for the same purposes as properties in those decisions. One of the most straightforward applications of this principle, the Superior Court held that all of Norton Sound's non-vacant properties are exempt under federal law and that taxes are preempted by federal law. There's no qualification. Similarly, the assessor's brief on appeal for this year asserts that quote, neither construction nor intent for future use are clearly included on the face of the exemption statute, end quote. This argument completely ignores the 2023 Superior Court decision in which the court held that the BHS property was exempt under both the charitable and hospital purposes exemption, where it was being renovated between two periods of exempt use. Before the renovation, it was behavioral health services, and after the renovation, it was to be used for maternal and patient housing. Despite these holdings from the Superior Court, the assessor continues to deny exemption applications for these properties, and the board has continually upheld the assessor's denials, leading to the need for litigation year after year. The city's decision to not apply collateral estoppel has directly caused this litigation, with Norton Sound having to litigate these cases fully, despite prevailing now twice, in order to fully protect its interests. Alaska case law is clear. The 2022 and 2023 Superior Court decisions can be afforded preclusive value, even for those issues on appeal. While the assessor may identify pending appeal both the 2022 and 2023 Superior Court decisions to the Alaska Supreme Court, this is a red herring. The 2022 Superior Court decision has preclusive value despite any appeals, including for the issues appealed. And in that case, the city only took appeal as to the 7-plex, which is used for staff and provider housing. The 2022 and 2023 decisions are the state of the law in Alaska that governs these issues. Yet, rather than wait for a potential change in law in either of the decisions, the city continues to deny exemption to properties entitled to exemption under the decisions. The assessor argues that these decisions should not be afforded preclusive value because of purported factual differences between the tax years, largely pointing to patient revenues received by Norton Sound for its patient housing properties and governmental funding received by Norton Sound under the ISDA's Section 105L leasing program for all properties this year, except for the HAT building. The HAT building does not have a 105L lease agreement. Yet the assessor argues that the facts are similar enough that his prior decision for the 20 to 25 years relevant. In any case, the assessor's position on the purported relevance of any factual differences between the various tax years is incorrect, and it's our position that These purportedly new facts do not change the legal outcome. First, the revenues generated by Norton Sound at all of its properties are all related revenues under federal law. We point the board to IRS Form 990, which shows that Norton Sound receives no unrelated business income. Norton Sound does not derive any revenue from its properties, including those in Nome, from any unrelated commercial activities. And the fact that it doesn't have any unrelated commercial activities really makes a lot of the case law cited by the assessor in a posit and without value for purposes of our inquiry. These cases include situations where a for-profit company leased personal property, medical equipment to a nonprofit hospital. That's Sisters of Providence. Another case involved the leasing of office space by a hospital to doctors for those doctors' private practice of medicine. So in other words, not for their practice of medicine, for the actual hospital. That's Sisters of Charity. And another case involved the operation of a radio station that was actively engaged in the sale of commercial radio time and whose airtime of religious content was only 22.4% of its total airtime. And that's Evangelical Covenant Church. Despite numerous citations to this latter case, the assessor's decisions entirely omit identification of the commercial activity in the case. Second, in the 2025 and 2026 decision, the assessor asserts a number of arguments related to the role of the quote nonprofit end quote modifier in the statutory language for the charitable and hospital purposes exemption. As detailed in our appeal documents, however, case law from the Alaska Supreme Court supports a common sense construction of the exemption. It is available relevantly to nonprofit, charitable, and hospital entities when those entities are exclusively using a property to carry out their charitable and or hospital purposes. Further, the Alaska Supreme Court has provided that the nonprofit qualifier also imposes some requirements on properties for which, quote, payment is received for the use of the property, end quote, as articulated in a three-factor test in the court's decision in Catholic Bishop. These three Catholic Bishop requirements mirror the related revenue test under federal law for the reasons we set forth in our appeal documents. These assessors failed to identify that Alaska courts have ever applied the Catholic Bishop test to governmental funding like Section 105L lease revenues or to patient revenues. As we've explained in proceedings for the prior tax years, the ISDA Section 105L lease program is not a lease in the traditional sense of the word. Rather, it's a congressionally designed cost recovery mechanism whereby Norton Sound receives funds from the Indian Health Service to reimburse it for facility costs. It is not a lease, nor should the revenue received under it be considered income. Unlike a traditional lease, the IHS does not hold any legal interest akin to a leasehold interest and does not have any right to use the property. With regard to patient revenues, accepting the assessor's position would essentially require nonprofit hospitals to operate facilities at a loss, which is not intended by the framers, as is explained in our appeal documents. Accepting the assessor's broad position that operational surpluses defeat exemption would also directly contradict the Alaska Supreme Court statement in the case Dina Nina Hanash that an exempt entity may operate a property at a operational surplus. So even assuming that the assessor were correct and that patient revenues and 105L leases represented new facts that change the operative legal analysis, which we submit they do not, there are several holdings of the Superior Court that are not at all implicated by either such revenues. The Superior Court, has defined and now twice applied a construction of hospital purposes to mean properties used to give Norton Sound the ability to deliver medical and surgical treatment and nursing care for sick and injured people. The assessor's decisions fail entirely to acknowledge that the parties have already litigated the definition of the statutory term. The assessor seeks to advance the same ultimate construction of this statutory language that was rejected by the Superior Court in the 2022 case, that a property is not used for hospital purposes if it is not a site where medical, surgical, or nursing care is delivered. In other words, if the property is not a hospital. But the statutory exemption is not for hospitals, but instead for properties used for hospital purposes. The Superior Court has found that the assessor's construction fails to give any effect to the word purposes. Similarly, the Superior Court has now already twice applied the broad scope given to the charitable purposes exemption to exempt all of Norton Sound's non-vacant properties, citing to the Alaska Supreme Court's definition of charitable purposes in Kings Lake Camp. The assessor's 2025 decision failed to give any effect to the term purposes in the charitable purposes exemption language, arguing, for example, that, quote, storing one's stuff is not charitable even if one is a charitable organization. However, even this proposition is unsupported by case law, as the Alaska Supreme Court has stated that, quote, storage space may be exempt as a charitable use of the property in itself. And that's, end quote, that's the Catholic bishop decision. Similarly, this year, the assessor cast the same argument with different verbiage, stating as to properties used by Norton Sound for staff housing that, quote, Norton Sound's or NSHC's owner's use of this property furthers the general purposes of NSHC as an organization, not that the property is directly used for exempt purposes. The assessor describes this as a, quote, general institutional benefit, end quote, that does not amount to the exclusive use for exempt purposes, which effectively recasts the statutory test. This is a specious argument that the Superior Court has now twice rejected, stating in the 2023 decision, quote, while the City of Nome's argument is creative, if the actual use versus owner's use distinction were taken so literally, it completely swallows the exemption, end quote. Another example of a legal point already litigated by the parties is the assessor's assertive reliance on the IRS's categorization of employee housing as a taxable or untaxable employee benefit. In the 2023 decision, the Superior Court clearly concluded, quote, whether the IRS categorizes an employee benefit as income does not change whether the properties may fulfill a hospital purpose, end quote. Additionally, for purposes of federal preemption, the Superior Court has already rejected the city's argument in the 2023 case that the federal government must regulate the, quote, most minute, end quote, activities at a property. Rather, the legal inquiry is whether Indian healthcare is pervasively and comprehensively regulated, which it is and has been held to be twice by the Superior Court. It is on the basis of this argument related to the most minute details that the city continues to request documents like Norton Sound's housing policies and lease documents, which are irrelevant and burdensome to produce. This year, the assessor imposed new, expanded, and unclear evidentiary requirements not found in statute or regulation. The assessor's demands for documentation are uniquely burdensome and in that they are based on a misinterpretation of applicable law. For instance, the assessor's interpretation of hospital purposes is inconsistent with established law for the reasons I've discussed. Yet it is on the basis of this misinterpretation that the assessor asserts that Norton Sound should identify in its exemption application all storage of equipment not directly used for patient care, presumably brooms versus scalpels, or, for example, to justify its use of the Quonset hut on the main hostel wellness center ops parcel. Similarly, the assessor misinterprets the meaning of nonprofit and conflates, on one hand, the permissible receipt of gross revenues or the existence of an operational surplus with, on the other hand, an impermissible profit motive. And this misinterpretation is the basis for demanding leases, tenant names, and revenue details such as guest revenue, patient revenue, federal funding, medical insurance payments, and other related revenues not expressly required by AS 29.45.030A3. The Alaska Supreme Court has already rejected the argument that a nonprofit entity is not operating as a nonprofit because it is, quote, more than fully, end quote, remunerated for its services by federal government funding, medical insurance payments, rental income, or operational surpluses. The assessor's adverse inferences for purported failure to produce documents and information is likewise misused. The Superior Court has now twice disagreed with the city's interpretation of AS 29.45.030A3 and federal preemption, and warned that the city has conflated facts and law in service of an erroneous legal argument, including deeming the city's citations and arguments as to the Catholic bishop decision as, quote, misleading and ignoring its factual and legal context, end quote, and finding that the city failed to mention factual differences between Norton Sound's tax appeals and the Sisters of Charity case, in which case those doctors, the hospital was leasing office space to doctors. The doctors were for profit, did not work at the hospital, The space was leased at market rates, and the doctors were not employed with the hospital. Throughout the 2025 and 2026 assessor's decision, the assessor cites to this Sisters of Charity case for the proposition that a taxpayer must do more than show benefits. The inapposite facts, which has been affirmed by the Superior Court under this case and this proposition of no value. Accordingly, it's an error to draw adverse inferences from the lack of irrelevant evidence on the basis that the tax exemption must be strictly construed, as the Superior Court has upheld. The canon of strict construction is an aid to and not a substitute for statutory interpretation. The interpretation must still be a reasonable one. Yet, no Alaska court has found the city's interpretation of nonprofit, hospital purposes, charitable purposes, or exclusive use to be reasonable. The city's broad accusations of misrepresentation and material omission by Norton Sound are exaggerated. Norton Sound provided information in good faith, evidenced in the first instance by extensive exemption applications. The assessor's view of what is considered material in the exemption determination process has changed every year, along with ultimate exemption decisions. For instance, the assessor argues that Norton Sound failed to disclose the lease arrangement for Unicom to place communications equipment on 15 square feet of the hospital roof on the basis of an offhand comment made during last year's hearing, and which comment did not feature in the board's decision. This lease arrangement has been in place since 2013, and the city has known about it because it was part of the original hospital construction, not to mention that the equipment has served the City of Nome's GCI customers for over a decade. Moreover, until now, the city has granted full tax exemption to Norton Sound without concern for the arrangement with Unicom, so it simply had not occurred to Norton Sound to identify Unicom's use of the roof in its exemption requests. Additionally, the city's March 2nd, 2026 letter requesting proof of eligibility for purposes of the assessor's independent investigation affirmed that information or document submitted in response thereto by Norton Sound would be, quote, considered for the purpose of determining exemption of the parcels of property for which Norton Sound has applied for exemption, end quote. So by the very terms of the request, the supplemental information provided by Norton Sound is to be considered for purposes of its exemption applications. This applies to Norton Sound's clarification as to the Kuski House, where Norton Sound's March 17, 2026 response letter provided that half of the property is used for patient housing and the other for housing health aid trainees or HATs who come to Nome for certification requirements. I believe any inference of or assertion of bad faith is further contradicted by the fact that the assessor takes the position that both of these uses are not exempt. And so I don't see how Norton Sound would benefit by trying to obfuscate that its use was only one of two non-exempt usages. And as to the Kiana Care Center on the main hospital campus, which is being renovated, the QCC has been under construction since 2023 and has been included in the hospital exemption by the city until now. The expansion of the QCC is a matter of public knowledge. Lastly, the assessor is incorrect that Norton Sound did not fully comply with requests from the assessor in last year's exemption application process. Last year, the assessor cited Nome's Form 2025 application for municipal property tax exemption, including its line D, which provides, quote, if the property generates revenues or in-kind benefits of any nature, including donations, contributions, custodial services, or contributions to utility services, the applicant must, end quote, provide various information. Norton Sound interprets this question to address uses of the property by third parties, or in other words, parties or uses unrelated to Norton Sound, and those that are not Norton Sound's use. As detailed by Norton Sound and as supported by the Superior Court's 2023 decision in its discussion of the staff housing properties, there is only Norton Sound use of these properties. There is no third-party use that impacts the legal analysis. The assessor cites line C of that form, which provides that, quote, if any person or entity other than the appellant claims any legal or equitable interest in the property, the applicant must, end quote, provide various information. This question, as related to Norton Sound's exemption applications for its staff housing properties does not require Norton Sound to produce information related to staff and providers staying in those properties. Norton Sound uses these properties for its own purposes, as has been confirmed by the Superior Court. In the Superior Court's decision for the 2022 tax year, the court held that the sevenplex used for staff housing was exempt and explicitly recognized that both employees and contractors resided there. Even assuming for argument's sake that ISDA Section 105L leases were actual leases in the traditional sense of the word, which they are not, Norton Sound has nonetheless provided the full ISDA Section 105L leasing arrangements for all the relevant properties in its applications and responses. Because the Alaska statutory exemption applies simply to property, quote, used exclusively for Norton Sound's hospital and or charitable purposes, end quote, without reference or limitation on the nonprofit generating revenue, Norton Sound interprets the application to refer to unrelated uses by third parties, which would be an interpretation that is consistent with Alaska case law and the Superior Court's decisions in the 2022 and 2023 cases. The assessor alleges that corporate housing leases to hospital staff and providers are relevant, but this is incorrect. First, the assessor argues an alleged third-party use of these properties that means Norton Sound does not exclusively use properties for hospital or charitable purposes. As I've discussed, however, the Superior Court has held the opposite, and that there is no third-party use of these properties. Norton Sound uses them for its own purposes to provide staff housing, which enables it to provide health services to the region. The assessor argues that income is not solely from use of the property for hospital charitable purposes for the same reasons as I discussed before. Patient revenue and Section 105L lease revenue should not be considered income. And in any case, all revenues stem from Norton Sound's use of its properties for its own purposes. The assessor also argues that residential use is not vitally necessary and directly incidental to Norton Sound, but the Superior Court has already held that Norton Sound's use of the housing property satisfy the exclusive use test for both the charitable and hospital purposes exemption. Thus, there's no need to analyze whether Norton Sound's use would satisfy the test exception in the vitally necessary and directly incidental standard. But in any case, the Superior Court has held that there is an institutional necessity for Norton Sound related to its housing properties. And as a last point, the assessor also argues for the housing properties that there are possessory interests that are taxable, citing to Alaska Statute 29.45.030A1A. And this was in the 2025 decision, which was incorporated in the 2026 decision. Norton Sound is the applicant for its tax exemption applications, and possessory income tax does not apply to it. Further, even assuming that Norton Sound does have a role to play in helping facilitate the city's tax on potential possessory interests, neither the city's 2025 or 2026 letters state such a purpose. And then the last point I want to make is that the 2026 decision purported to incorporate the entirety of the 2025 decision, which Norton Sound objects to on the basis that it's unduly burdensome to try to respond to two different decisions, which were then supplemented by a brief on appeal, and that it made it difficult to develop counter arguments in a manner that could have been facilitated much easier if it was all contained in one decision. So those are, thank you all for your patience there. Typically, what we've done in the past is gone through in a much faster way, just saying what's done at each property, but I turn it back to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fry. Anyone have any questions for him? All right. Not hearing any questions. Then second is to hear from the assessor's representative. That would be Charles.
Good evening. This is Charles. brief that was submitted on behalf of the assessor and the other information in your packet, I think, thoroughly addresses all of the points that Norton Sound has made this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Otherwise, I am satisfied as to proceed on what was submitted in writing.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Charles?
Charles, I have a specific question about, in the city's position about correcting an error. If I understand the hospital saying they weren't giving that 30-day notice, they just found out about it 2 days ago. Procedurally, if the board so decided not to address that, is procedurally, administratively, can the city go give them proper notice, or is there not a notice issue?
So, if the Board of Equalization were to, say, affirm the assessor's decision, which provides that there's roughly 10 million in taxable value, the city would not have an administrative mechanism to then tax the remaining 18 million. Does that answer your question, or were you asking a different question that I did not quite understand?
I think that sufficiently. I was wondering if there was a way we could kick the can down the road on that one and not make a decision and have it have it taken care of administratively, but it sounds like no.
I understand. No, there isn't, is the short answer.
All right. Any further questions?
Is Charles gonna make a like rebuttal or assessment of what their attorney just gave us?
He said that he's satisfied. If you don't have any particular questions, he's not going to add any further conversation at this time.
And then where do we stand considering the court cases that have been, sounds like they've been determined?
So I'd be happy another time to kind of give a more thorough update as to the various stages of litigation for numerous years. If you're asking specifically about sort of issues of collateral estoppel, I'll address those, but there are 4 separate pending cases, all in various stages. For quite some time, we've been waiting for the Alaska Supreme Court to issue a decision in the 2022 case. The Supreme Court's website says that there's a draft decision circulating. Beyond that, I have no information.
All right.
One would hope soon.
So just to clarify, they're all pending?
Yes, so there are various stages. There is an appeal for the 2022 tax year pending before the Alaska Supreme Court, the 2023 tax year pending before the Alaska Supreme Court, the 2024 tax year pending before the Superior Court, and the 2025 tax year pending before the Superior Court.
Thank you. Any further questions? All right. Chair will entertain a motion to recess into executive session for deliberations on items which may impact the city's finances.
I'd make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilmember Lust, seconded by Councilmember Green to recess into executive session to discuss items that may impact the city's finances. Is there any discussion on?
Excuse me, Board Chair?
Yes?
Sorry, the audio is cutting out. If possible to make one closing statement, I think we're happy to rely on the papers as well, which points that I believe Charles thinks addresses on ours. But if it's possible to make one last note on one exemption application, that would be appreciated. And it'll be much shorter than my prior comments.
All right, let's hear
Okay, just wanted to note that for related to the assessor's request for the board to quote correct that assessed value. Here, just for the reasons that we provided in that letter that Mr. Party handed out, that matters not properly before the board. Norton Sound didn't appeal the evaluation, nor has the assessment been superseded. And speaking to how that error is described in the city's or the assessor's brief on appeal before the BOE, it's sort of unclear what the nature of the error was, but it's clear that the assessor relied on a 90%, 10% exempt versus taxable status of improvements on this parcel, just the way that the math cleanly works out. So it's unclear to us what the nature of the purported error was. In any case, that construction on the County Care Center, given where it's been, and as of March 2026, there are patients residing in the expanded long-term care facility, and all but 3 rooms are currently complete. So even if the QCC expansion was not exempt for all the reasons we set forth in our appeal documents, however, the assessor should at least apply a pro rata exemption for March 2026 through the end of the year. So that was my comment on the QCC, and I thank you for letting me make that comment.
All right, thank you. So, on the motion to recess into executive session, is there any further discussion? Call the roll on the motion, please.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Miller.
Can I be exempt from executive session?
All,
She's saying recused.
Excused, yes.
Or-
Conflict.
Yeah.
yes. As a result of your employment situation with Norton Sound Health Corporation, you may be excused from the executive session.
So do I have to vote still, or am I excused from voting?
You may be recused from voting as well. All right.
Councilmember Green.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
That was all 4. All right.
Yep.
Motion carries. So we are recessing into executive session. We'll stand at ease for a couple of minutes while the room prepares. We may take the council to a separate office, and so everyone can stay. How's that for an option?
Do I have to
at a time. All right, thank you everyone for your patience. Let the record reflect, we've come out of an executive session at 8:23 p.m. Chair will entertain a motion to grant the Norton Sound Health Corporation appeal for parcel number 001-221-05A and 001-221-05B, the sevenplex.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilmember Johnson,
I'll second.
seconded by Councilmember Lust. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk may call the roll.
Councilmember Lust,
No.
Councilmember Green,
No.
Councilmember Henderson,
No.
Councilmember Johnson.
No.
The motion fails. Next item, Chair will entertain a motion to grant the Norton Sound Health Corporation appeal for parcel number 192-1085, the 20plex.
Make motion.
Moved by Councilmember Lust,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk may call the roll.
Councilmember Henderson,
No.
Councilmember Green,
No.
Councilmember Lust,
No.
Councilmember Johnson.
No.
Motion fails. Item 3, Chair will entertain a motion to grant NSHC appeal for parcel number 001-11807 duplex.
Make motion.
Moved by Councilmember Lust,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Johnson. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk may call the roll on item 3.
Councilmember Johnson,
No.
Councilmember Henderson,
No.
Councilmember Green,
No.
Councilmember Lust.
No.
Motion fails. Item 5, Chair will entertain a motion to grant NSHC appeal for parcel number 001-11501, the hostel, wellness, and ops.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilmember Johnson,
I'll second.
seconded by Councilmember Lust. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, clerk may call the roll.
Councilmember Green,
No.
Councilmember Henderson,
No.
Councilmember Lust,
No.
Councilmember Johnson.
No.
Motion fails.
Mayor. You skipped the Kusky house.
Did I? All right. Need a pen. Item number 4. Chair will entertain a motion to grant NSHC appeal for parcel number 001-3101A, Kusky House.
Make motion.
Motion by Councilmember Lust,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Johnson. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk may call the roll.
Councilmember Johnson,
No.
Councilmember Lust,
No.
Councilmember Henderson,
No.
Councilmember Green.
No.
Motion fails. Item number 6. Chair will entertain a motion to grant Norton Sound Health Corporation appeal for parcel number 001-21103A and 001-22103D, Hostel West. Motion by
Make,
Councilmember Lust, seconded by
sure.
Councilmember Johnson. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, clerk may call the roll.
Councilmember Henderson,
No.
Councilmember Lust,
No.
Councilmember Johnson,
No.
Councilmember Green.
No.
Motion fails. Item number 7, Chair will entertain a motion to grant the NSHC appeal for parcel number 001-211-03B Hat.
Make the motion.
Moved by Councilmember Lust,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Johnson. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk may call the roll.
Councilmember Johnson.
No.
Councilmember Henderson.
No.
Councilmember Green.
No.
Councilmember Lust.
No.
Motion fails. Item 8, Chair will entertain a motion to grant NSHC appeal for parcel number 001-201-05 storage.
Make that motion.
Motion by Councilmember Johnson,
I'll second.
seconded by Councilmember Lust. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk may call the roll.
Councilmember Green.
No.
Councilmember Henderson.
No.
Councilmember Lust.
No.
Councilmember Johnson.
No.
Motion fails. Next, the chair will entertain a motion to adopt the assessor's updated valuation for parcel 191-059, the regional hospital.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilmember Johnson, seconded by Councilmember Lust. Any further discussion?
What is that new valuation or the adjusted valuation?
The assessed value of the new construction is $28,545,705.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Clerk may call the vote.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Green.
Yes.
Councilmember Lust.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, Chair will entertain a motion to grant the NSHC appeal for parcel number 190.1.059 Regional Hospital.
Make the motion.
Motion by Councilmember Lust,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Johnson. Any discussion? Clerk may take the vote.
Councilmember Lust.
No.
Councilmember Green.
No.
Councilmember Henderson.
No.
Councilmember Johnson.
No.
Motion fails. That being all the items before the Board of Equalization, we will return to regular Nome City Council meeting agenda with the utility manager's report, which may not
He's
be.
not on. He's not on.
He's not on, so we'll proceed then to the city manager's report.
I will be quick. The first item is a proclamation. It's Alzheimer's Disease Awareness Month. I've met a couple of folks who are caregivers, and for those of you who dealt with Alzheimer's and dementia, the ones that really need the support are the caregivers. And this is part of putting this together, but also putting out some information about caregivers, also about testing for Alzheimer's. And this will coincide with some of the medical stuff here in Alaska, so the state is doing this also. So,
Mr. City Manager, are we to make a motion to approve that proclamation?
yes, sir.
For the mayor? I'd like to make that motion.
Motion. Is you second? Okay. Motion by Councilmember Johnson to pass the proclamation declaring June Alzheimer's Disease Awareness Month, seconded by Councilmember Green. Is there any further discussion? Clerk, can I take the vote?
Councilmember Green.
Yes.
Councilmember Miller.
Yes.
Councilmember Lust.
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
All right,
Okay.
motion carries.
Yes, sir. Next, just for Thursday, I've been beat twice when I tried to put budget work session with regular meetings. So I thought, let's just have a night of it. So, we plan a couple hours on Thursday, but I did put these summaries. And the reason I put those is you've got all the detail, but anything that you see and says description of budget changes, these are the only things in expenditures and revenues that have changed since you saw it last. So that's just a point, and we'll do that Thursday. But, any questions you have between now and Thursday about any of it, please give us a call or come by and be glad to talk with you about it. But looking forward to Thursday. You will see also on the budget calendar, we're looking at June 8th for all of these items, including setting the mill rate. That's the second reading and potential for consideration. And then tax bills go out for 29th. So based on the work session this week, if there another one is needed, then we'll schedule it and may have to alter the schedule a little bit, but it's up to council. Yeah. So I just wanted to give plenty of time. Pull tab ordinance, that obviously that is not a city project of sorts, but we have asked the attorney to weigh in and to send us something. We have not got
He's drafting
an actual ordinance because it was not as easy as we thought. I mean, we ran into, a number of things that suspended license for operating, for selling, all kinds of things. So we've had to go to the attorney and say, help us here. So he's drafting something. So just as soon as we get that, we'll give that to you. And you guys can take a look at it and see where we are. But I did not want to rush him because there's a lot of moving pieces on which we knew that. And I can bring it up and talk about it in work session as it relates to consideration or effects to the city budget. So it can be discussed Thursday. So, we might want to take a few minutes if he gets the ordinance and just have them go over it Thursday in the work session. So if we get it back in time.
You just asked, I was gonna ask the question, can we look at the budget end of it? The other part is the legal end of it. But the budget end of it and how it affects the budget. So we could take a look at that as part of.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, Thursday we'll go to the numbers. So yeah,
that'd be helpful.
Nikki's perfecting. She is perfecting. Okay. You will see I've sent the required letter to the schools today. It was due the 26th, so they received it today and basically approving, and you took action, the $3 million. I did mention to you the possibility of a one-time funding of right at $100,000 for some repairs. There's money in a couple places, one with debt service, that they really do need to get done. But as I told the superintendent, it's one-time money. So, and we have to delineate that so it doesn't count that, the appropriation is 3.1. It's separate. So if you consider that, we'll have more details on exactly what's being repaired on Thursday. Okay. The other stuff, you'll see the Coeric event tomorrow. I know there's a lot going on tomorrow night. But if you have a chance, I'm going to go over at 5. And, I thought this sounded pretty interesting, but it's the U.S. delegates to the Central Arctic Ocean fisheries. So if you're able to go meet them, it'd be nice. These folks have really been forthright helping us on certain information and being advocates. So if you get a chance to do that, you could be out of there at 5 o'clock by 6. So if you have a chance, please go and do that.
And it's at the Kavira Cultural Center.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just wanted to
Yes.
get that in there. For those that might be listening.
We are also on summer events, from Midnight Sun to 4th of July. A lot of folks that are working on parts of those events are really struggling to get volunteers. So please get the word out. They will call us because I know particularly with our team in the clerk's office, it's a very small number, but we're trying to get others involved to help because it can be hectic. Same thing with Midnight Sun. So we are asking for volunteers. So please call us so we can keep those things moving smooth. I know last year it was great, the events, but more help could be had. So we're asking for those. Seat open enrollment for insurances, please look at that for all of our employees, our team members, and for yourselves, and participating in that. If you have questions, to come by. Then just wanted to update you on a couple things. Training, Public Works, this is a big month for us. May 27th through the 1st, Dan and myself are officially Cole and Chris. We have a lot of people out this week in training, but it was necessary to get them over some, a couple classes that we're not having to pay a lot for other than travel, CDLs, the compactor training. The guys are waiting for that first barge with that compactor to throw it in the landfill and get that going. So we appreciate Anchorage and some of the folks over in Anchorage that are, allowing us to participate in their equipment and get our folks trained. We have reinstated the safety committee and trainings, which are including first aid AED usage, administering Narcan, trips, falls, those kind of things. So we put that back in place, which gives us discounts by having these trainings, and it can be 5+% on our premium, which that can mean a lot. Last, public and emergency communications. Dustin, Wally, and myself have appointed us as public information and messaging, and we were having who's on duty when if you need to get emergency stuff out. So we're putting that together, and I'm looking forward to it. IPAWS is the federal program for reaching out to communities and emergencies. And we are partnering with Coeric. They are also putting together, like My Nome, they're doing one for Coeric, where we're all tying together on all of these call outs. The hospital has a system, school has a system, so we're trying to bring them all together. I know there's overlap. I'd rather there be overlap, for the community. That way we're not missing people. But what is interesting with my talking to Coeric and Kevin is his action. He is the regional emergency manager. So a lot of the things that we have, he's going to help us get out further. Those who use, we're kind of the microcosm over here, and people who come in to make sure they're getting the information, because we have bearing on their operations, what they do and how they get here. So anyway, we're getting ready to expand into some other platforms as far as getting information out. The kids are doing Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat. So we're looking at all of them to get the word out. So, and looking forward to Thursday, 6 o'clock.
I had one thing that I wanted to, and it's kind of falling under the communications a little bit.
Yeah.
We don't have an AI. I saw the advertisement for the Port Open House, and it didn't dawn on me exactly. I think the technical term for that would be AI slop. It had altered photos of the Thornbush pad that were not accurate or representative. I think we should just make sure that we're focusing on when we do put stuff out, we get one chance to get it out and get it right. And we just want to be very cautious about AI can do amazing things and create something really nice, but look at that actual advertisement and tell me that it made sense.
I don't use it for
Right.
And
I think it was probably just an honest oversight or something like
it
that.
has a place, but we don't do it on our messaging. Yeah. Usually it's too much, or they use words that people aren't familiar with.
Yeah,
including
it
myself.
Seems like everything for AI for making things about ports and things give these really crazy things that, and then 100 years from now, somebody's going to be reading the Nome Nugget and they're going to look at this advertisement. They're going to think that's what Nome looked like. It's not factual.
Correct. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. I object
Sorry.
to the AI stuff. I'm like, no.
Oh, was that the picture with the trees in the background in the forest? Yeah. Palm trees.
Palm trees. You don't know. That's on the other end of West Beach.
Oh,
Yeah, you haven't seen that. Sorry.
It was interesting.
Artificial. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
all right,
Couple
Mayor.
real quick questions to city manager.
go ahead.
When we were on our tour and prior to that, we were aware of the city boilers at the rec center.
Yes.
Could we get an update on, is that part of the budget coming up and where we're at with that? Because I think Cole was looking at a couple different options.
Yeah. Right now we have. I'm sorry.
And being that it's summertime,
It's the
it's a
time
good
to
time,
work.
good time to work on them as opposed to winter time when
Yeah.
we need them.
We have the company that's coming over from Anchorage. They're going to do a full assessment of all boilers. We have called a couple other groups to say, who do you use? Do you want them to do yours at the same time? We have maybe one taker, which is great. And I'm hoping that's going to move into maybe a centralized contract. But they're going to come do that. Once they do that, then we'll begin work.
And the second thing, there's some information out there on the NSCDC yearly
Mhm.
funds. Could we take a look at that during that budget session
Yes.
also?
Yeah. In fact, I've told Nikki, let's go over that.
Because
Yeah.
there's some money in there from our prior year for the rec center too, and in
There
addition to,
is.
yeah, so we should really take a look at
Yeah.
that.
We're prepared for that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Lee, could I ask one more question?
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead, Lee.
Now that we had, now that we've had a public hearing on the use of the funds, NSCDC funds, does that come back to us, or are we just green light to go with the basketball courts?
We can go forward
Right.
on that.
Is it gonna come back before us? Do we have to vote on it, or is it, are we good now at this?
You'd have to.
Okay, you're right,
Yeah.
right. It's still gonna come back.
Saying right
Okay.
now, we're still in the process of getting the prices, getting the,
Got it, okay.
and there's something we'll need to discuss with council maybe, at our next regular meeting for, naming of a facility based on a large contribution. And I've told the individuals, we would be glad to talk with them. It's pretty substantial, which is awesome. And anyway, they just don't want anything out right now about it. So anyway, I'm excited about that. So yes, we'll have to do that. But we can also, when we get into, the budget, go into more details Thursday about that.
All right. Any further questions for the city manager? Hearing none, the next item in the packet was the port director and projects report, 5/20/26. Joy has left.
She scooted.
So it's there for your information. I'm sure you all know how to get a hold of Joy should you have any questions about it. So that brings us to the second citizens' comments portion of our meeting. Is there any citizens that would like to comment?
Right?
If you could head
Yes.
to the podium where the microphone is and state your name for the record.
Hello, my name is Casey Pate, and I have a fun one for you this evening. I've addressed this body a couple of occasions over the last year, but I'm traveling here from Cordova, Alaska. I'm a member of the Explorers Club and the Alaska chapter of the Explorers Club, and we are here in Nome yesterday and today celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Norga flight to Teller from Spitsbergen in Svalbard in Kings Bay, May 11th, 1926. And they landed in Teller in May 14th, 1926. They were aiming for Nome. It was marketed as Rome to Nome, but I think after 72 hours of minus 30 degree temperatures and wind blowing them off to Siberia, they made Teller and said, that's good enough. Let's just bring it down. So it's been a really fun collaboration. I'd love to just thank the community of Nome for embracing us and giving us an opportunity to share this cool piece of history with you all. I'd like to especially recognize Cheryl Thompson, the Carrie McLean Museum, Megan Anders, Ivana Stem, formerly Ivana Stemfy, Luca Lombardo, Wes Achbach in Teller. Yesterday we drove up to Teller. It was a really fun trip. I'd like to thank the AKDOT for maintaining that road. It was freshly graded. It was fantastic. We had a really fun time celebrating with the community there, and Breivik Mission as well participated. And it's a really cool piece of Alaskan history, world history, and we've had a really great time celebrating that history over the last month here in Alaska. So most of our work has been down in Anchorage at the Anchorage Museum, the Alaska Aviation Museum, Sons of Norway, but the story really claims roots here in Nome, and so I wanted to come and share with the community. It's been a really fun collaboration internationally, and so I certainly encourage Nome to celebrate this history and continue the celebration. The story continues with the successful landing in Teller. The Italians attempted the flight again in 1928, and it was a famous crash landing. And so I really want to just honor the community, say thank you, and encourage you from a tourism perspective and for all the great nuggets of Nome history to not let stories like this die. Keep them living, keep them going, and use them to tell your story in a more colorful and ever more enchanting way. We've spent the day with Cheryl's great leadership and curation of the museum, going through the museum archives and putting on an exhibit for the community. It's been fantastic and really fun. We brought materials that we brought, but she has uncovered tremendous amount of documents and a very colorful history of that event that you guys have in your archives and records. Going back to my origin story here, I'm here just to answer questions and just say thank you. But my origin story was seeing the bus of Amundsen on your main street here in 2022, kind of invited me into this story, having some ties to Norway and things like that. But I had no real knowledge of the Italian component. And so this was the first flight that was marketed to actually reaching the North Pole. So it's a very historic achievement. And we did even find some really cool anecdotes that I'd like to submit for the record for you from the City of Nome. So I'll be brief, but after the Sons of Norway and the government of Norway dedicated the bus of Amundsen, there was a riff that the Italians didn't really get equal credit for the discovery and the achievement and the expedition. And so there was a considerable effort made in the 1980s from the Carrie McLean Museum at the time to recognize the Italian piece, which was then the origin story of the Italian plaque that was dedicated in 1983. And so I would just encourage you from a tourism perspective. Yeah.
Did you find the plaque?
Yes, we did. We did. The plaque is just outside this building, actually. So
And
it
we
is.
found the one in Teller on the building.
You found
Yes.
the one in Teller too?
Yes.
Okay, so,
We couldn't make contact with the Blodgett family, unfortunately, to go inside of their warehouse in Teller, but we did verify pieces of the airship that are still there. And so there's a lot of really cool conversations that could still take place in terms of repatriation and visiting those sites and kind of totems that are still there.
in '83, when that plaque was put on in Teller, I was living in Teller and I took pictures of the dedication and wrote an article for the Fairbanks Daily News Miner that they published.
That's fantastic and super cool. And I would just like to point out for the record that the mayor of Nome in 1983, May 31st, 1983, in honor of the Italian Air Force and the airship Norga in 1926, designated in the city of Nome that May 31st would be known as Umberto Nobile Day in Nome. And so those are cool things to kind of riff on from a tourism perspective, because we've had people travel all the way from Italy to participate in this. We've been able to collaborate with people all over the world. And those are all tourism opportunities for you guys to explore, not just every 100 years. So you could do it on an annual basis. And as you're considering ways to develop and expand your tourism opportunities, these are really cool stories that you shouldn't just let sit on a shelf. So thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Who's
Thank
mayor
you.
at the time?
Leo Rasmussen. Yeah.
Yeah.
On our week.
Well, looking through the documents, it was Roy Johnson, the Carrie McLean Museum, who really put forward the most of the muscle on that. So, but anyways, bravo, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wasn't really planning on speaking, but do you guys know all the details for spring cleanup? I just realized this is the last council meeting before spring cleanup.
For the
So I think-
record, name?
Oh, Cheryl Thompson.
Thank you.
So I'll just go over it. Okay, I volunteered to help. So,
She kind of volunteered. Yeah, she did volunteer.
from June 1st to June 5th will be You Call, We Haul. People can call the 6663 number. They can call this week and, get their piles on the list. So Public Works will pick up their garbage their stuff, their big stuff, from so Monday through Friday, June 1st to the 5th. The monofill will be open from June 1st to the 6th. So Monday through Saturday from 11 till 7, every day, Monday through Saturday, the monofill will be open with someone there. People can take their stuff right to the monofill. Then June 6th will be the cleanup day from noon to 4. Lions Club is doing the hot dogs and soda at Old St. Joe's, and we'll have 3 trucks parked. One just west of Airport Pizza across from the shop, and one at the rec center, and one out at the fire station at ICU. And that'll be, from noon to 4. And kids can bring bags of trash, get their ticket. If they get 10 tickets, they can turn it into a red ticket, and it'll go in a raffle, and we'll have coupons for 3 bikes from AC's.
Local AC's, Hanson's, they've just been easy to deal with. I mean, I've been very pleased with the events and things.
Yeah,
Supplying a lot of materials. It's very nice.
so we have various, AC's is donating the hot dogs and buns. Hanson's will be donating the, accoutrements for the hot dogs. NJUS buys the sodas. So, and Lions Club will be handing stuff out, so. And I've got my volunteers for the 3 trucks for the day, so. I just figured I should tell you I didn't include one of the flyers for the council packet. I was in Fairbanks last week, so having fun learning about bees.
I have a question for Cheryl.
Thank you.
This is just for residents, is that correct? Businesses and construction companies are not allowed for this part of the cleanup. That's how it's been in the past, so I am just asking, so when
Okay.
we're just phone
Residents.
calls.
I'm not in charge of that
Commercial,
part,
they need to give us a call.
Someone else can answer that. You said
Yeah,
no
It's
commercial?
residential only.
Yeah, residential only. Okay.
I assumed, I didn't want to assume, but thank you.
All right.
That's
Thank you.
all I have, yeah.
That's it for citizens' comments. We'll proceed with council members' comments.
Councilmember Lust.
Yeah, got back into town Thursday and got off the plane and went right to the Port Open House and had a good time there. Interesting enough, Anna Rose MacArthur, who's a marine advocate with Coeric, was sharing about deep sea bed mining in federal waters that could potentially affect Norton Sound. And the current administration has a pretty strong initiative. They want to get that fast track and potentially have 20-year leases going in federal waters within a year. To me, it sounds a little bit between crazy and possibly crooked, and something that it seems like we should be keeping a very close eye on to make sure that our commercial and our subsistence priorities aren't left in the dust with this push. And other than that, summer discussions, yeah, interested in pull tab discussions coming up, and then work sessions maybe later on this summer about other revenue sources, sin tax, aircraft property tax, increasing the bed tax, things that might have to go to voters by fall. Seems like that's possibly something we should talk about.
At least one of them.
At least one.
We're trying to space things out.
But that's all I have, yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Lust.
Councilmember Green.
Well, I'm looking forward to the cleanup, and it's always a nice thing to have.
It is.
Yeah, so it's something I utilize. So makes things a lot nicer for everybody.
It is.
And that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Green.
Councilmember Miller.
Thank you to city staff for spring cleanup. Also, if you see Laura, I believe she's graduating, so we'll have a different student rep next year, but congratulations to all the 2026 high school graduates tomorrow, I believe. Just kind of piggybacking off of what Adam said. Yeah, I'm interested to see different revenue come in. Also, I've brought it up once or twice before, but I'm curious about the possibility of taxing for resource extraction. So like mining, or looking at different fees for gold mining or land use permits. If you see, even within the last 5 years, our beaches have really been littered with old mining equipment, rust, different, different landscape as people have beach mined and such. So interested to see how we can, or what the opportunities are with that as well, especially with the gold prices really high. How much of that, or I'd at least be interested to see how much of that revenue stays within our community.
That's one of them that we'll look at. I do want to say, and I appreciate you talking about the beaches. Obviously, the port's opening up, miners are in town, we are strictly enforcing mining on our beaches that we own. So all the way to West Beach, and we're having to get people to move. So we send, if they don't listen to one of us, I send somebody that has a patch on there right here and anyway here, and that's helping. I had to get one today. They were just not far down from Subway, and the officers went out there and said, nope, substantial fine. What was the fine? $500 or $1,000? So yeah, but we're enforcing it.
Yeah, and also if we can make it any easier on, our community members and businesses. I've heard quite a people having issues with our systems, and if we
Is there anything sometime find out specific for me that would help me?
like, I don't know if it's the permitting, I don't know if it's like the third party we use, but I've heard just that that it's difficult for
Just
businesses for taxing purposes, or I don't know
okay.
exactly but we can talk more about that
Okay,
later.
that'd be
But
great. Thank
maybe
you.
just cleaning up some of our
Okay,
processes or
Okay.
different things like that.
great. Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you, Councilmember Miller.
Councilmember Henderson.
No comments, thanks.
Councilmember Johnson.
A nice day for the Memorial Day yesterday. The weather held off through the parade and the festivities. And again, it's a good collaboration amongst our nonprofits. Between the VFW always puts it on, the Chamber for sponsoring and putting up the flags. And I think that the Lions Club kicked some money in towards that effort this year too. So it's really, again, a good collaboration of what the local nonprofits do for our community.
We our council put in 2,000 towards particularly replacing flags and expanding a little bit too. So we helped with that. I thought it was important.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's it. All right. I guess these mayor's comments. I hope everyone that was interested managed to stop by the Port open house and see what was going on there. I thought it was a really good job of presenting what we have in mind, laid out, and our visions for it. The thing that we're really absent that we need to try and come up with is if we had a private investor that wanted to help us build the port, what kind of a return on investment could we offer them? What sort of a vehicle? I feel like these are questions that we need to get some traction on and look a little more in depth at how our port's going to be managed in the future and how we want it to be managed and make sure that we can set something up to manage it without hurting ourselves, which is mostly what keeps me up at night as I think about the port. Outside of that, it's been great to see water on the roads. Even if watering the roads does throw up dust, which is
Everybody slow
Which
down,
is-
it helps.
yeah. But I see a renewed effort this year to staying on top of it, and I just want to convey my appreciation. I'm on the road way too much, and so thanks. Graduates, congratulations. An amazing accomplishment to get as far as you've gotten. All it's going to do is open up a bunch more doors. Now you got decision points. Hopefully you've got a plan for your future. And if you don't worry about no plan yet. Just keep on doing some things that you want. Dream big, go for it. Congratulations, graduates. Call it good. Thank you all.
Motion to adjourn.
A motion by Councilmember Luss to adjourn, seconded by Councilmember Johnson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.